particular time, so the individuals that are here thought they would come down and be here.
Because we've received a call from First Alabama Bank, and they have asked to meet with us and to discuss some of the issues that we're talking about, we have decided not to escalate at this particular time any further the selective buying campaign that we have targeted to various businesses.
Sports Acres is the site for this weekend's tournament, one of the biggest of its kind to come to Montgomery. About 20 skiers, all with world record capabilities, will be competing in slalom, trick, and jump. Tommy Hill, the owner of Sports Acres and one of the competitors in the tournament, is like many of the skiers on hand. He's looking to better his current records.
There's always the home side advantage, and it took a whole lot of work to put this tournament on, and I would like to break my state records and run them up some, and possibly maybe even do a little better than that.
Two of the women competitors will be 15-year-old Kim Laskoff, the girls' division national record holder in slalom. She hopes to improve on her world standings. Maybeth Acres of West Palm Beach, Florida is also here. She holds no records and looks at this competition in a little bit different light.
I feel that I need to ski under pressure more. To most of the tournaments where I ski at home, it's all friends and they're real quaint and small. And I just want to get the feel of skiing under pressure so I can ski better at nationals. And just the more tournament experience I can get at different sites and different types of water, the better it is.
The skiing begins Saturday morning at 9 o'clock. The finals will be held Sunday beginning around 12:30, and there will be a small admission charge at Sports Acres.
The Dodgers got 2 runs in the second off Atlanta's Rick Camp. Steve Yeager's double scored Greg Brock from second base to give Los Angeles a 1-0 lead. Then shortstop Bill Russell fired one into short right center field. That scored Yeager, and the Dodgers had a 2-0 advantage. In the Dodger fifth inning, Ken Landreau launched his 7th home run of the year into orbit. The Dodgers were on top by a score of 3-0. The Dodgers routed Camp with a 3-run sixth after Guerrero and Brock opened the inning with singles. Marshall drove in Guerrero with a single to left. Donnie Moore replaced Camp, gave up this RBI single to Yeager, and with one out, Alejandro Pena got another run in. It was 6-0 Dodgers after 7. However, Pena gave up the only run for Atlanta in the 9th inning. Was replaced by Joe Beckwith. Pena is now 6-1. The Dodgers beat the Braves by a score of 6-1 to lead by 3.5.
A lot of wonderful people here, too.
Just make yourself at home, so we're glad to have you here.
Thank you.
How you been here? Chip, good to see you, buddy. How you doing? Doing fine. You give that in my best. Well, you give me my best. I'm glad to see you. I'm glad to see you here. Feel free. Don't have a representative, Brother Willis. Glad to see you here. Glad to have you.
It would gauge a candidate's ability to organize, to get his name in front of people. It's very important that these are young political activists, and they are important in any campaign or any strategy meetings.
Second quarter, Chicago scored first. Tim Cagle connecting here with super rookie Trumaine Johnson on a 12-yard touchdown pass. The point after failed 6-0 blitz. A Scott Norwood field goal cut that lead to 6-3. Then this bizarre play. Eddie Brown fields the kickoff at the 2. He steps back into the end zone and downs the ball. But the referee ruled it a safety instead of a touchback, and Chicago's lead was now 6-5. Birmingham then took advantage of the free kick to score. Bob Lane to Darrell Mason for a 21-yard touchdown pass. A try for 2 failed 11-6 Stallions. Back roared the blitz. Bobby Scott in for the injured Cagle goes to Johnson again. An 18-yard touchdown, 12-11 Chicago. This Norwood field goal from 34 yards out closed out a wild first half with Birmingham leading 14-12. The second half was all Chicago. A Frank Corral field goal gave the Blitz a 15-14 lead, and Scott connects here with a wide-open Trumaine Johnson. He'll make his third TD reception. Reserve Mike Boatner closed out the scoring with a 15-yard scamper, and the Blitz tripped the Stallions 29-14. Chicago holds a 1.5-game lead in the USFL Central. Birmingham falls to 8-8 and out of the playoff picture.
A flyover of an F-4 reconnaissance jet marked the end of an old chapter and the beginning of a new one for the 187th. For the past 31 years, the 187th has been flying the colors of a reconnaissance unit. Today, commander of the group, Colonel William Turnipseed, traded in the old colors for that of a combat group.
We have been taking pictures of tactical targets for our assessment for the field commanders. Now, after the pictures are taken, we'll be carrying bombs out there to either try to knock the target out or neutralize it.
Over the past 3 decades, a group based at Montgomery's Danley Field has established itself as a top unit in the Air Guard. Now they're in the midst of training to become a top-notch fighter group.
We have all kind of new weapon systems. We have to load bombs, store bombs, guns, ammunition. So really, we have all kind of new career fields that we're going into.
The 187th already has a head start on its training, and Colonel William Turnipseed says he's pleased with how fast his unit has been able to transition into a new mission. Although the unit was officially awarded its new colors today, it won't be until July 1st that the 187th will be officially recognized as a combat unit on paper.
When officers met at the Greenville National Guard Armory this morning, many different agencies were represented. Officers from the Department of Public Safety and ABI, deputies from Montgomery, Butler, and Chilton counties, and policemen from Montgomery and Greenville, along with forest rangers and representatives from the Attorney General's office. All the officers in today's operation have had some training in search procedures. They were again briefed by troopers in the Butler County Sheriff's Office on what areas would be searched and what officers should look for. The first operation was centered just yards from where Joan Gilmore's car was found. Miss Gilmore was abducted in Montgomery in 1978 and her body not found until 2 years later in Butler County. Some similarities in the two cases is what prompted today's search in Butler County. Another search was made on property where Jerry Hamilton, who's charged with kidnapping Missy DeVaughn, often hunted. Jerry Hamilton's being held in a federal hospital in Springfield, Missouri, undergoing mental evaluation. Today's search was no easy task for the 200-plus officers.
They had to contend with steep embankments, insects, and very heavy undergrowth. One officer compared the heavy foliage with what he had encountered in Vietnam. No trace of Missy Devon was found by the officers today, but coordinators of the search say by using the officers spaced only 5 feet apart and conducting the search the way it was today, the 3 areas can be ruled out when other searches are planned. Matt Carmack, WSFA TV News in Butler County.
In a flurry of campaigning from the many Democratic presidential contenders, Alabama's Young Democrats came together today at the Capitol. It was billed as the biggest and best Young Democrats meeting ever. Although it was officially called an issues convention, one issue seemed to outweigh all others: a straw vote on who should be president in 1984. 3 candidates came to address the crowd: South Carolina Senator Fritz Hollings, Alabama's Gerald Willis, California Senator Alan Cranston. When the candidates spoke, the main topics for all were similar. 1, the debate over nuclear weapons.
20 years ago, we had enough bombs to blow us into the next world, and we have more than enough today, and we must move forward on arms limitation. But the danger is not in the warhead, but in the heads of the leaders of the several nations.
I totally agree, first of all, that we have enough nuclear weapons made in this world, and I would totally agree to a bilateral freeze.
But another strong point in most speeches was the nation's economy, with candidates blaming foreign competition with causing many of our economic problems.
It's not enough to offer the traditional menu of interest group appeals. We must see to it that our society offers everyone, an opportunity to fulfill their dreams and their destinies.
When the speech-making was over, it got down to the voting, and it didn't take long for a winner to emerge.
Hollins, 18 votes. Glenn, 8 votes. There were 8 undecided votes. Senator Alan Cranston, 65 votes.
I think it means I have 65 dedicated young Democrats who will be part of the basis of my campaign here. I am glad that I ran ahead of Senator Hollings of South Carolina, the only Southerner who competed hard in this straw poll.
Whether or not this will make any difference when it comes to the real election, for now, Senator Cranston says it's a significant step in his fight for the White House. Tom Foreman, WSFA TV News.
Montgomery is one of 4 Alabama cities where Computer U will be holding training sessions so people can become more computer confident. Although the week-long computer camp sessions are designed for 18 to 17-year-olds, anyone over 17 can sign up. The Computer U instructors believe exposure to computers at an early age is a necessity.
I am in education myself, and I firmly believe that in the very near future, some knowledge of computers will be required for graduation because so many different businesses, aspects of the business world require knowledge of computers in this day and age. And what better time to start than when you're young enough to be totally interested in something.
The child learns how to give directions to the computer, and there are lots of other ways in life that the child can benefit just from having something in his home that requires him to be organized and to practice.
The first Computer U session will begin June 27th and cost $95. 48 applicants will be accepted. Applications are being taken at the Whitley Hotel. Future sessions will depend on the number of applicants. Computer U will have another open house next Saturday from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. at the Whitley Hotel. Lisa Walsh, WSFA TV News.
Claudell Washington broke up a scoreless tie in the 4th, ripping this bullet off Giant starter Andy McGaffigan. The line drive sails over the center field wall, putting Atlanta up 1-0. The Braves get 3 more in the 5th. Jerry Royster sends one back up through the middle. That scores Brett Butler from 3rd. Royster later scored on a wild pitch, and Dale Murphy connects here for his 19th home run of the year. And after 5, the Braves were in command 4-0. But it wouldn't last long. Jack Clark got 2 of those back in the 6th, unloading off Ken Daly with this 2-run blast well over the fence and left, making it a 4-2 game. Then in the 8th, the roof falls in on the Braves with a man on, Gene Garber pitching to Chili Davis, and you can kiss that one goodbye. We're all tied at 4, and Davis with a curtain call for the fans at Candlestick. The very next man is Jeff Leonard, and he does the same. It's long gone deep to right center. All of a sudden, the Braves' 4-0 lead is a 5-4 deficit. San Francisco hangs on to win it, and Atlanta has now lost 4 of their last 5.
Round 3 of the U.S. Open, and to give you an idea of what Oakmont is all about, look at this eagle putt by Tom Watson on the par 5 9th hole. First down, then up, then back down the hill. Watson almost beats the ball to the hole. He didn't make the eagle putt, but he did settle for birdie to go 1 under. That gave him a share of the lead. Now Raymond Floyd on the 11th hole with a long putt for birdie. Floyd finished with a 72 today to stand 2 shots back of the leaders at 1 over par. But this one was perfect, and Floyd with a sigh of relief after the birdie. The best round of the day goes to Larry Nelson, who carded 8 birdies on his way to a 6 under par 65. This is his approach to 18, and it was typical of his approaches all day. The ball ends up just 10 feet away, and then Nelson with the birdie putt on 18. He'll ram it home for a 65. Larry Nelson, just 1 stroke off the pace at even par. Another story is Calvin Peete, who missed just 1 fairway the entire day. That's why he's one of the favorites here. Here on the par 4 17th, he gets a beautiful approach to within tap-in range for birdie. He made it. He's also at even par after a 70, 1 shot back of the lead. Hole number 17 served most of the leaders well. Here's Seve Ballesteros. He had a 69. This putt gets him to 1 under par, and he now has a share of the lead with the defending champion, the U.S. Open champion, Tom Watson. With his birdie putt at 17, it'll be Watson and Ballesteros in the final group for the final round of the U.S. Open.
The Coosa County landfill just outside Rockford is but one of 4 sites searched this week by members of the Criminal Investigation Division of the Environmental Protection Agency and the Alabama Department of Environmental Management. The other sites are in Florence, Sylacauga, and Weguffca. Federal and state investigators, along with a federal marshal, executed a search warrant at the Coosa County landfill on Wednesday. Heavy equipment was brought in along with safety equipment to dig up and sample the material. Workers found about 100 drums of suspected hazardous waste buried in a ravine at the back of the landfill. As a safety precaution, workers wore protective clothing and used air packs for breathing. Even though the exact makeup of the material isn't known, environmental officials believe it's similar to this so-called paint sludge found in Goodwater last year. A state lab analysis of the Goodwater waste turned up 50 different compounds, including 10 highly flammable and potentially explosive industrial solvents. Environmental officials say an investigation into the origin of the Goodwater waste led them to the latest illegal dump sites. Assistant U.S. Attorney Charles Nivens says the Justice Department is involved in the current investigation. He says penalties for those found responsible could be 2 years in prison and a $50,000 a day fine for each day the waste has been on site. Dennis Latham, WSFA TV News.
I don't have much on my mind, just everything's just real nice and beautiful, and Lord's providing us with good weather just to enjoy the best of each day.
Well, I'm looking for a job in about 10 or 11 places to go around, trying to find this job for the summer.
Been hard?
Very hard.
Well, that's always a bother. They still haven't settled Social Security. So, as a senior citizen, we always have to think about that, of course.
What mind?
The military.
Why is that?
Because I think it's a great opportunity to make yourself a good career.
What are you going to do?
What am I going to do? I plan on going in the field of missile, 15 Delta.
Why?
Because it's interesting, you rank fast and make quick money and good money.
They shouldn't make bombs no more.
Appearing on TV 12's Newsmakers program, Commissioner Smith said the state paid too much money to construct new prisons because the wrong type facilities were built.
I would not have built the institutions as they are. I was in the planning and research. I was the Social Commissioner of Planning and Research, and because of my beliefs like that, I was put out of the meetings during the James administration. But
It's simply the type of inmates we have in the state did not warrant the types of security that these institutions have.
Now Commissioner Smith says it will take several million more dollars this year alone to operate the new facilities.
Because 1 October, if I don't get the additional money, we'll have 1,000 inmates sitting in the St. Clair facility, and we'll have to lay off those guards, we'll have to turn off the electricity, and when the food runs out, I would imagine they would start climbing the walls.
But all of the new building does bring Alabama closer to compliance with 15 federal court orders against the prison system. Alabama's prisons have been under court orders for reform for more than 10 years now. If all goes as planned, Commissioner Smith says all that will end the 1st of next month. Tom Foreman, WSFA TV News.
Come to Jesus. Come to Jesus. Just now. Come to Jesus. Come to Jesus. Just now.
Well, no, you never get used to the feeling. It's a good feeling. It's pretty good. It's good to have all the waiting over with and everything.
It was great. Wish I had a few more. I hope I get a few more. I hope they're just as tiny too, because they're more fun to love. I have them a little longer. Although we didn't plan on this one coming early either. But it's nice to. My first one came home a day after Father's Day, 2 years ago, and this one comes home 2 days after on Father's. Well, she'll come home 2 days after Father's Day this year. So it's been 2 great Father's Day presents in the last 2 years. Pretty good. Can't beat that.
There's no one exactly like you.
The case is that of former Baldwin County Circuit Court Judge Wilson Hayes, who for most of his one and only term in office listened to divorce cases. One of those divorce cases, that of Freddie Lee and Dorothy Scott, served as the forum for this legal battle. 6 months ago, the State Court of the Judiciary suspended Hayes without pay from the remaining 5.5 weeks of his term, saying he had misbehaved as a judge when he recommended that the father of 7 have a vasectomy. Attorneys now say that Mr. Scott followed through on that suggestion, thinking it was a prerequisite to winning his home in the divorce settlement.
We argued that the conduct.
While the former judge's attorney, Michael Gallion, doesn't deny the statement was made, he argues it was an angry outburst that wasn't meant to have any force and effect.
By the Court of the Judiciary. What we're basically asking the Supreme Court to do is to look at the record and the law and the previous cases where judges have been censured, and to hold that Judge Hayes' conduct in this case did not merit the punishment that was meted out.
We argued that it was a premeditated, deliberate undertaking by the judge.
But to Assistant Attorney General Ed Carnes, it's a matter of principle.
If he's reinstated now, what I told the court was that would amount to him receiving a 10.5-week paid vacation for the misconduct or misbehavior that he engaged in.
While the former judge is waiting to see if the Supreme Court will essentially reduce his punishment, Freddie Lee Scott is waiting for $20 million from the former judge. Scott has filed a federal court suit in Mobile, but Hayes' attorneys think that suit will be thrown out soon, citing a judge's immunity from damage suits. Chris Grimshaw, WSFA TV News at the Supreme Court.
With Jimmy's placement on the pay scale. He got, as I understood his resume, he's got it. Where was the Alabama Prison Parole Board? Graduated from Montgomery.
Change that word to on those actions which are necessary.
I so moved.
Well, your near normal temperatures normally for June, July would be in the mid to upper 90s, and we're probably going to be running 5 to 10 degrees below that. We're probably going to have a little bit more rainfall because of the El Nino phenomena. What happens out there, the Pacific Ocean warms up, it gets warmer than normal, and you get a high pressure. You get a pressure system that's abnormal from the what it should be. It diverts the jet stream, and you get unusual weather pattern.
I've been a trooper for 12 years, and it's more fear as far as approaching a vehicle that type than probably any other fear that I've had. Fear of the unknown more than anything else. You don't know what the occupants of the vehicle are doing or what kind of harm they intend to you as a police officer.
Troopers say they're not only concerned with their safety, but also the safety of the motorist, because they think the heavy tinting limits the driver's vision.
As far as the driver of the vehicle with this type of window glazing, the amount of visibility he has, particularly at night, is reduced considerably. And, particularly if you have dome lights or interior lights up to their maximum. One of the problems we have, particularly with DUI cases, is with a driver. We cannot observe who the driver is, what type of actions or maneuvers he's making, particularly, like I said, in drinking situations. That's one of the avenues that we use to decide whether to stop a vehicle or not is what type of behavior the driver is performing. And particularly if he's drinking, you have vehicles of this type, with this type of window screening, we cannot observe even if they're drinking.
The Senate may debate the bill in the next couple of weeks. However, its companion, House Bill number 630, has not made its way out of the Judiciary Committee. Matt Carmack, WSFA TV News.
Stand back. That's the bomb squad standing by. Keep digging.
Most people appreciate what the police department is doing. They tell us when we're out on the scene of things that they appreciate it, and you just have a very small group of people who for some reason or another want to stir up some kind of trouble, I think. But most of the people in Montgomery, black and white, have always been real helpful and friendly as they can be. He's 100% better trained than he was when I came here, and it seems to be improving all the time. You seem to be getting a better quality of people along, too. A little more education involved. We have quite a few college graduates. Even on this shift, I have several college graduates, which is sort of promising.
I've been a trooper for 12 years, and it's more fear as far as approaching a vehicle that type than probably any other fear that I've had. Fear of the unknown more than anything else. You don't know what the occupants of the vehicle are doing or what kind of harm they intend to you as a police officer.
Troopers say they're not only concerned with their safety, but also the safety of the motorist, because they think the heavy tinting limits the driver's vision.
As far as the driver of the vehicle with this type of window glazing, the amount of visibility he has, particularly at night, is reduced considerably. And, particularly if you have dome lights or interior lights up to their maximum. One of the problems we have, particularly with DUI cases, is with a driver. We cannot observe who the driver is, what type of actions or maneuvers he's making, particularly, like I said, in drinking situations. That's one of the avenues that we use to decide whether to stop a vehicle or not is what type of behavior the driver is performing. And particularly if he's drinking, you have vehicles of this type, with this type of window screening, we cannot observe even if they're drinking.
The Senate may debate the bill in the next couple of weeks. However, its companion, House Bill number 630, has not made its way out of the Judiciary Committee.
The study of relations between Montgomery police and the black community started in January. Since then, the Advisory Council and Commission members have been talking to government, civic, and business leaders, trying to pinpoint any problems between blacks and the police. Are you happy with progress in this?
Yes, that's tentative. It's hard to tell right now where we are because we've not been able to pull the data together yet. But people are being cooperative. The community people have been very willing to speak with us.
Part of today's meeting focused on recent events in the city, like the burning of a cross on a county commissioner's lawn and a boycott of several local businesses by some area blacks.
I would venture to guess that it has received considerable support.
The commission is, however, also taking note of the emergence of several biracial organizations in the city, organizations that are seeking their own solutions to end racial tensions. Committee members say after one more week of gathering information, that phase of their work should be 60 or 70% complete. They're still hoping to have a finished report by the end of the year. Tom Foreman, WSFA TV News. Since January, the Advisory Council and Commission members have been studying what problems may exist between police and blacks in Montgomery. One area of concern is how much or how little area churches are doing to help ease racial tensions.
There does seem to be a fairly silent voice in this community regarding ministers. Black ministers have organized into a Concerned Ministers Alliance to address this whole issue of police-community relations, but we have not heard anything that I know of from the white ministerial community.
Committee members say so far community response to their study has been good. They still hope to have a finished report by the end of the year.
I am hopeful that we will be through with much of our data gathering, say 60 or 70% by the end of the interviews this week.
While the commission has already met with many business, government, and civic leaders, tomorrow night they'll take a grassroots look at the problem of race relations in Montgomery in an open meeting with residents in Montgomery's Tulane Court. Tom Foreman, WSFA TV News.
You know you're a small businessman if you employ 500 or fewer people. You also know you're a small businessman if you have trouble borrowing money from a bank. The trouble doubles if your loan is denied because you're a woman, or if the bank needs 2 signatures on a payroll check from the wife who owns the business and her husband. These bankers are trying to clear up the misconception that banks don't want to lend money to small businesses. Bankers say loans are turned down for any number of reasons, like inadequate capital information, no acceptable business plan from potential small businesses, and lack of communication between lender and borrower. And the small businessmen got a chance to list their concerns, all of which are to be compiled at the State Governor's Conference on Small Business in August. Kim Davis, WSFA TV News.
And that includes some pretty large...
The City Council is exactly where it was a week ago when it learned the court had found its redistricting plan unacceptable, and that is divided on whether to appeal or draw a new plan. And the political enemies the federal court wrote about are going their separate ways again.
We are satisfied that we're right, and we'll take our chances at the appellate court.
This council want to play games. We spent $20,000 already playing games to satisfy some political egos, and the taxpayers are bearing this burden now.
Now the council is playing a waiting game, waiting to see if the appeals court makes a ruling in time for October elections, and waiting to see if Councilman Reed can jockey his old 1981 plan onto the agenda. Except that now Mr. Reed feels he has the upper hand.
If we don't enact a plan of some kind, then of course the court will have at its discretion to adopt one of those plans or have another plan redrafted. So I'm not worry so much about it.
Well, the one that Mr. Reed has proposed couldn't be any worse. There's no way that the court could impose one that would be any worse than that.
Councilman Reed will try to bring his plan before the council again in 3 weeks. Until then, he says he will work behind the scenes for a compromise. Susan Silvernail, WSFA TV News.
House Ways and Means Committee Chairman Tom Coburn, who sponsored the near $1.5 billion education budget, didn't have to work too hard when the measure came up. There were only 5 attempts to amend the budget, but none attempted to touch any of the extra $4.5 million tacked onto the kindergarten program in committee last week. There were also no efforts to change the proposed $4 a month increase in teachers' hospital medical insurance assistance.
With the passage of the education budget, the House has completed its consideration of the 2 major budgets and the necessary tax changes to generate nearly $80 million to make ends meet in the 2 budgets. The entire budgetary package is now in the hands of the Senate.
The House also passed a bill giving the legislature another $1 million, money the House leadership says is needed to run the legislature starting next week. Before the House met, the Montgomery County delegation approved a bill giving Montgomery County probate judge Walker Hobby a pay raise. The problem is now determining how much of a raise. If the bill approved isn't changed, Judge Hobby's salary will jump from $35,000 to $53,000, 90% of a local circuit judge's salary. Representative John Starr thinks that's too much of an increase. Judge Hobby says he'll take any increase since the Montgomery is the state's 3rd largest county, but probate judges in 13 smaller counties make more than he does. Jefferson County's probate judge earns more than $68,000. Chris Grimshaw, WSFA TV News in the House of Representatives.
The forensic pathology state will try to determine the physical size of the body and a description, male or female, the race, and if we can get an identity, then we can check dental records of that nature. All the scientific ways of identifying a decomposed body.
Watch it, you might do something.
Well, the forensic pathology state will try to determine the physical size of the body and a description, male or female, the race, and if we can get an identity, then we can check dental records of that nature. All the scientific ways of identifying a decomposed body.
And of course, I don't think anybody should be fooled. The party officials will pick the nominees based on backroom, smoke-filled backroom party politics somewhere in Birmingham. And I am opposed to that. I think that denies the democratic process to the taxpayer of the state of Alabama.
At the top of today's special order calendar, there were 3 bills that would allow insurance companies much more leeway in investing their money. But Birmingham Senator Bill Cabness didn't like the bills or the way they made it to the floor. It seems that the clerk of the Senate Banking and Insurance Committee went to individual members of the committee and asked for their votes until a majority of the members had approved the bills. All this without a meeting. Senator Cabness asked the Senate to send the 3 bills back to committee for further study, but the Senate refused. Lieutenant Governor Bill Baxley says there's no Senate rule to require a committee to meet and vote on a bill. Later, after the bills had passed, Senator Cabness filed a motion in writing to change the rules to require a committee to meet in order to approve a bill.
We never had a committee meeting on them. We never discussed them. We never debated them. It makes a mockery of the committee system. Might as well do away with committees if we're going to do that and just pass sheets of paper around and see if we can get enough votes to sign and approve the bills.
Senator Cabness says arguments that signing out bills is necessary because committees are having a hard time getting together to meet indicates there are too many committees and a lack of interest on the part of senators. The upper chamber is now in the process of debating the so-called comparative negligence bill. Dennis Latham, WSFA TV News at the Capitol.
Mr. Kirkland, Mr. Little.
At the top of today's special order calendar, there were 3 bills that would allow insurance companies much more leeway in investing their money. But Birmingham Senator Bill Cabinet didn't like the bills or the way they made it to the floor. It seems that the clerk of the Senate Banking and Insurance Committee went to individual members of the committee and asked for their votes until a majority of the members had approved the bills. All this without a meeting. Senator Cabinet asked the Senate to send the 3 bills back to committee for further study, but the Senate refused. Lieutenant Governor Bill Baxley says there's no Senate rule to require a committee to meet and vote on a bill. Later, after the bills had passed, Senator Cabinet filed a motion in writing to change the rules to require a committee to meet in order to approve a bill.
We never had a committee meeting on them. We never discussed them. We never debated them. It makes a mockery of the committee system. Might as well do away with committees if we're going to do that and just pass sheets of paper around and see if we can get enough votes to sign and approve the bills.
Senator Cabinet says arguments that signing out bills is necessary because committees are having a hard time getting together to meet indicates there are too many committees and a lack of interest on the part of senators. Dennis Latham, WSFA TV News at the Capitol.
Mr. Hilliard, Mr. Holmes, Mr. Keener, Mr. Kirkland, Mr. Little.
Is designed to change the current law in Alabama, which provides that when the jury returns a verdict in favor of the status as we now stand, a comparative negligence bill has been introduced in both chambers of the Alabama legislature. Senate Bill 139 is introduced, and I believe it has been voted by the House, given a favorable report, and is awaiting acceptance by the Senate.
See that mess?
The reason that I am here in good old Washington, D.C. this morning is because we're having a special awards presentation. Mrs. Nancy Reagan will be presenting 9 American families, American Family Awards. These are the McCords, and you're Larry McCord, right?
That's right.
And where are you all from?
Slap Out, Alabama.
You're from where?
Slap Out, Alabama.
Slap Out?
Yes, sir. Slap Out.
How did Slap Out come to be Slap Out?
Well, we had a general store there several years ago, and the guy, every time you go in and ask for something, he said he was slap out of it, so that's where the name got it.
That's as good as any. Ramona, do you keep him straight?
I sure do.
And you all are farm family,
yes,
right?
Yes, we are.
And 4-H'ers, and what's your name?
Joel.
Good to have you with us. And you?
Lila.
And you've got a husband.
Lisa, yes, sir.
Where is he?
He's at work right now. He works in Slap Out, Alabama, too.
They got businesses in Slap Out.
Oh, yeah.
And who's last but not least?
Jimmy.
Jimmy. And all of these folks, as say, part of one family that will be awarded today a special American Family Award here at the White House. What'd you bring me? You got something for me?
Yeah, I got you a little mint toad from our little town of Slap Out.
Yeah.
And I'd like to present it to you, and because this little town, we think a lot of it.
Everybody loves Willard in Slap Out
Oh.
and Elmore County.
Thank you. You're so sweet. I got a license plate that says Slap Out. Well, I'm slap out of time right now, so I better get back in New York. I think Jane is with us next, right?
Thank you, Willard. Indeed.
please, Danny. Raise your prize for Albany, please.
I think the political freedom bill would be definitely a milestone, and we have been supporting the personnel board bill for several years, and so if it's passage, I think both of them would be milestones, yes. Well, I think that the governor is well respected in the House and carries a lot of weight, so we're sure that his help will help us get these bills passed by the House.
Refused to enter into the settlement negotiations. Those negotiations went on between... The suits were filed in January 1982 after Lee County Circuit Court Judge James T. Gullidge this lawsuit in October 1979 after he had learned that a respiratory ailment that had forced him to stop working was caused to material disabling. Indeed, regularly, employees were not informed about the results of those medical tests that had been administered to them. The tests might indicate evidence of lung problems, breathing problems, reaction to the dust. They might indicate that workers should be protected in some way or removed from the plant, or at least from areas of the plant where cotton dust was present. And yet the company officials would not inform the workers of this fact. And that was one aspect of the fraud that we alleged in our case. Brown lung disease. The center hopes that Alabama's other textile companies will follow West Point Pepperell's exemplary lead. Boston-based Liberty Mutual Insurance Company, the nation's largest workman's compensation insurance carrier, is the only remaining.
I've known about steel workers ever since I was a little boy. When I went to more local steel unions than anybody in this room. Contact your... If the Japanese, when an automobile is sent to Japan, they charge us $500 to do an inspection fee for its environmental effects, why can't we do the same thing on a Japanese automobile sent here? If they charge more for an automobile tag for a foreign car, which they do, then why not us charge the same thing they charge for an American car and a Japanese car here. That goes for other countries.
Let me look at the clerk's office. I don't know. I have no idea what the court's going to do. In light of the fact that we've lost in circuit court, now we've asked the court to reverse the circuit court and to enjoin further expenditures of money and to declare that the expenditures of money were unauthorized and void. But it would be presumptuous of me at this stage to tell you what I expect to occur because it's submitted to the court. You'll just wait to see what they say.
Thank you.
Thank you. Charles. Thank you very much.
The crash that took the lives of 8 people late last night was almost a bigger tragedy. The twin-engine Cessna 421 plane crashed about 150 feet from this trailer. Only the tall pine trees saved the family who lived here from destruction. This morning, local officials were trying to figure out what caused the crash in the late-night fog. Atmore Police Chief Bill Smith, one of the first on the scene, says one of his officers saw the plane before it hit the ground.
A city police officer out of my department, about, I'd say, 2.5 miles from the crash site on the east side of the city, saw the plane a few moments before it crashed. And his statement to me was that the plane was flying just barely above treetop level at that time.
A few yards from the crash site, Mrs. Lily Mae Scott heard a loud sound. She says she thought a big truck had crashed into the woods.
I just saw a big fire, and the top of the trees was burning.
Officials say the plane left the Pensacola airport around 11 last night when the pilot reported to air traffic control in Jacksonville that he was losing altitude. Although there were 8 people on the plane, the flight plan indicated the craft would carry only 5.
Attorneys expect the Wilkins case to have a devastating financial effect in textile industries across the country.
This is the first time that an employee in the textile industry has recovered not merely workers' compensation, but recovery for pain and suffering and punitive damages.
Wilkins worked in the carding room at the mill for 27 years. He's 60 now and disabled. His condition is the result of cotton dust exposure, which attorneys charge mill officials knew about but failed to adequately warn him and other employees.
Employees were not informed about the results of those medical tests that had been administered to them. The tests might indicate evidence of lung problems, breathing problems, reaction to the dust, and yet the company officials would not inform the workers of this fact.
Both sides are satisfied with terms reached in the settlement, although attorneys refuse to say how much money Wilkins received. He and 5 other former employees sued West Point Pepperell for $5 million each. Those workers also contracted brown lung, which has long been associated as an occupation hazard in the textile industry.
With these settlements, and with other workmen's compensation settlements that the company has now voluntarily made, West Point Pepperell has shown that it has accepted its responsibility to compensate victims of brown lung disease.
Kim Davis, WSFA TV News.
$90 million of this will be spent in the fiscal year 1984, $90 million in fiscal year 85, and the remaining $22 million will come from unobligated funds of the Corps of Engineers. So it means that we will not have to go back to Congress to get an appropriation to complete the Tennessee Tom Bigby. And therefore, if we do not have to have a appropriations battle It means that this is the last battle and that we have won the Tennessee Tom Bigby, and that the Tennessee Tom Bigby is assured.
Title of Junior Miss. It's the first time in the 26-year history of the pageant the crown has fallen Miss Alabama's way. And what will she do with her scholarship money? Hold on to your seats, Bama fans.
Right now I'm planning on going to Mississippi State University and majoring in physical therapy. That's my interest right now, but I'm going to have an open mind about it.
The action cranked up, and so did the cameras following the action. And things started cranking up for Alabama's junior miss, Stephanie Ashmore. First, she won the physical.
House members say the Wallace administration and the House leadership are trying to put the near 1 dozen Mobile area House members between a rock and a hard spot. The House leadership is trying to require a bill giving the state several thousand acres of potentially oil-rich offshore land now claimed by Mobile's University of South Alabama, to be considered before a second bill giving the Mobile area Scott Paper Company the right to produce its own electricity and force the power company to buy that power.
We in Mobile County are not going to take a double whammy today. We aren't sure that we have the votes to pass the cogeneration bill. We're fairly sure we don't have the votes to stop the South Alabama bill, and there's no way that we're going to take these bills in the order that you have placed on this special order calendar.
The Mobile delegation has a wheelbarrow load of delaying tactics ready, upset about the USA oil land bill, and is convinced the House leadership that no ground will be gained today. While the administration and the Mobile delegation work out their differences, Alabama Power Company is gearing up for its battle over the cogeneration bill, possibly tomorrow. Chris Grimshaw, WSFA TV News in the House of Representatives.